Hi, I'm Josh.
And I'm Derek. We're both experienced founders and CEOs of B2B SaaS companies, and now we're your hosts.
In today's world, getting accurate information about B2B SaaS products is tough. User review sites are manipulated, and research reports are often wildly inaccurate or paid for. That's why we're here, to bring you information that no one else does.
We go straight to the software companies themselves to break down their products, show you a demo, and give you our honest opinions. Whether you're a software buyer, investor, or user, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to Talk SaaSy to me, everyone. Today we've got a really special guest, Andrew from Reason Automation, CEO. And we're going to dive in and learn all about their business, all about their product. We're going to see a demo of their software, and then Derek and I will talk about it. So your hosts today, you've got Derek and Josh. We're both founder CEOs of B2B SaaS companies. We've done hundreds of implementations together and separately across different types of products and services. And we're going to dig into everything Reason Automation today. So Andrew, thanks so much for joining us. And to kick it off, why don't you tell us a little bit about why Reason Automation and why you're the right guy to solve the problems that it does?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me, and good to meet you, Derek. So Reason Automation, in plain English, helps brands that sell products on Amazon get their data out of Amazon systems and into their own tools and software at the highest quality and highest accuracy possible. The reason why this product exists may not be immediately obvious if you've never sold on Amazon. I think a lot of folks assume, well, why wouldn't I just be able to then log into Amazon and get my data out and do whatever I want with it? And that would be a very reasonable assumption. The reality is that much like every platform that you've ever tried to get data out of, Amazon makes some of it easy and some of it hard. But ultimately, in order to control the data and be able to view it and manipulate it the way that you want in order to run your business the way that you're used to, it can be very frustrating to work with it directly in Amazon systems. So we help brands take that step to get it out of Amazon tools and into their own analysis patterns, combine it with their non-Amazon data to do things like omni-channel analysis, et cetera.
Awesome. And Andrew, tell us why you're the right guy to help build this tool and solve this problem for sellers on Amazon.
So there are a lot of tools in the market that help brands manage Amazon businesses or Amazon data in some shape or form, hundreds, if not thousands of SaaS tools. But what we think makes us stand apart is a few things. First, my co-founders and I are ex-Amazon. And we weren't developers there. We were actual vendor managers and on the retail side of the business, helping manage brands. And that means that we're intimately familiar with the pain points that brands experience, the types of data and analyses that they need to run in order to be successful, the types of data points that their vendor managers are going to require in order to be persuaded during negotiations, et cetera. But it also means that we're really intimately familiar with the tools and systems that produce that data upstream. And of the 150 things that could possibly go wrong with that data every week, we're able to very quickly get down to the top 3 to 4 and triage and solve for them. And that brings us to reason number 2 why we're the right people, which is that we focus on data quality and accuracy. There are a number of reasons why Amazon data can be inaccurate or difficult to manage the accuracy of. And we understand what those are and build software and processes specifically to manage them. I won't go into the deep esoteric detail here, but as one specific example, the way that Amazon handles returns data is frustrating for anybody with an accounting background because it's exactly the wrong way. If you were to, for example, return something today, Josh, that you bought last week, it would show up as a return for today. But it would show up as a -1 to your sales number last week and not as a separate line item. Amazon just goes back in time and restates that historical sales number. So you don't really know that it's happened. It just means that the next time you go that pull last week's sales numbers, the number is different. And that can cause a lot of grief for folks reporting on their Amazon business. You know, if you can imagine you're the GM of e-commerce for a CPG company and you're reporting into your CEO, and the CEO, first thing that they do is get somebody to log into Vendor Central for them, show them a screenshot where the numbers don't match yours. And suddenly you're not actually defending your strategic insights. You're defending the quality of your data and you're rat holing on a problem that you didn't really expect to have to spend time on.
I'd be lying if I told you that at least I can say this, Derek, that mismatched accounting period data is not fun. Never seen that before. But, I think the question everyone wants to really know, Andrew, after you said you're ex to Amazon is, so do you and Jeff hang out? Do you go on his yacht on the weekends?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, Jeff and I and Lauren were really great for. No, I've never met the man. The closest I ever got to Jeff Bezos was back in 2011 or 2012 when I was still at Amazon, and it was a much smaller company. And I was about 8 feet in line behind him for a salad in the cafeteria. And at that time, he was not quite as famous. He wasn't doing the Hollywood circuit and stuff, so he only had 4 bodyguards.
That's awesome. So tell us a little about the history of Reason Automation. What year did you guys start? And share what you're comfortable sharing. How many customers approximately do you have? What kind of growth trajectory are you guys on?
Yeah, so Reason Automation started in 2020. My co-founder and I, Joe, decided that as the pandemic started was the right time for us to quit our stable jobs and take a giant risk on starting a company. It felt like, stability, who needs it right now? That ended up being a wiser bet than we thought it was because, as you're aware, the pandemic was a huge tailwind to all e-commerce businesses, as terrible as it was for the world. So we saw a lot of growth in 2020, 21, 22. Today, we are still growing. Like everybody in the e-commerce space, we saw the tailwinds die in 2023 a little bit, but we since then have figured out, I think, a little bit of who we want to be when we grow up as a company and the types of customers and problems that we're best at serving. In the early days, like most companies, we sold to anybody who would give us money and anybody that we felt like we could solve a problem for. And that meant brands of all sizes, sellers, vendors, every single data set that we could get our hands on, et cetera. And these days, what we're finding is that as we get more and more distinct at providing high quality data and high accuracy data in a way that most of our competitors seem to still not focus on, that has given us a much clearer sense of who our target market is and what kinds of data that we can provide the most value for. For example, Josh, to your point, accounting data, it matters how accurate you are. Accountants aren't willing to accept a 1% to 2% variance from the source record. That's a non-starter. It makes their job literally impossible. Versus if you're an advertising manager and you're working with Amazon data, maybe accuracy isn't super important to you because frankly, maybe you don't trust Amazon's advertising data in the first place. And even if you do, it's based on an attribution model that makes a bunch of assumptions anyway. So maybe you realize that, or maybe we realize that, the 99.99% accuracy we can achieve is super critical for FinOps, for accounting, and then for all of the business questions that get driven by that data. Like, what is my profitability on Amazon and how is that trending over time and why? As well as being able to provide really granular input for things like machine learning in order to do things like demand forecasting and price management. That's where we've really found our home. And that's why we have gotten back to, I think, a very exciting growth phase as we get into 2024. We've got, I believe it's just over 650 brands on the platform now. And we are growing not quite 100% year over year, but close to it and accelerating all the time. This is driven in part by the focus that I just mentioned, but also in our decision in 2023 to start providing even more data usability. Where in the past we were extremely focused on quality and accuracy, what we realized is that Amazon has so many extremely complicated data sets that even if we provide the data ready to use, quote unquote, from an accuracy standpoint, that it's still extremely difficult for a lot of folks to make sense of or just time consuming to connect the dots between. And so this year we've launched some new analytics and dashboard products to help make that a little easier, starting with the most complicated data sets in FinOps.
You touched on this a little bit, but regarding some of the relationships between Reason Automation and other tools that a client might be using, they obviously have all of their Amazon login and data. They have their accounting platform, whether that be QuickBooks or NetSuite or something like that. And then they might also have other shipping platforms or other environments where they're doing fulfillment or that type of data. So how does Reason Automation fit into that? Where do you fit in compared to the data that they're getting out of those other platforms, or how do you facilitate data within those solutions?
That's such a great question. And so just to repeat it back, Derek, you asked how do we integrate not only with folks' internal data systems like their ERP and QuickBooks and accounting software, but also their other Amazon ecosystem tools that they might be using to manage shipping or pricing or whatever else that it is. And so the way that we integrate today is we don't integrate with other Amazon tools directly. What we found is that almost all of those tools are their own little closed ecosystems, and so trying to support them one at a time is a very developmentally expensive process. We've also found that most of those Amazon tools have not made data extraction a priority or making data available a priority because they've got other problems to worry about. If you're a repricing tool, then your primary goal in life is to manage pricing and to do that better than every other repricing tool in the market. And we don't blame them for focusing on that. But it does mean that getting pricing data out of those tools consistently at a high accuracy level at the granularity that we want is often difficult or impossible because it's not a priority for the tool provider itself. So instead, what a lot of our clients are doing is using us to unify their data universe from Amazon, from some other data sources, and then load all of that into their ERPs, whether that's a NetSuite or something else. We provide hosting as a sort of staging ground for folks that need it. We host everything in a Cloud SQL database, so you can just immediately plug it into your own tools, or you can replicate that into your own data environment. And that way, instead of going to these dozens of tools and trying to export data from an inventory tool, as well as from vendor or seller central, as well as your ad tool, et cetera, you can keep doing your work in those tools, but stop trying to build data pipelines and use us instead. And we're taking away the burden of managing that data and then letting you focus instead on building reporting, analytics, and insights that help you take action on it or report on it to stakeholders.
Awesome. And Andrew, maybe just to elaborate on some of that too, you mentioned some of your product in that answer, but maybe for the listeners, help us understand what comes with Reason Automation. Like, what is someone getting when they buy Reason Automation?
So when our customers come to us, typically the situation that they're in is they have an Amazon business that they're trying to report on every week, and they have established business questions that they need to answer. Like, what were my sales? How did that change month over month and year over year? What were my top and bottom selling products? What products gain and lost the most velocity? Where are we gaining and losing the most money, et cetera? And the pain point with that comes from the actual data extraction process, which is both time consuming and not particularly accurate because of the historical data restatement problem I mentioned earlier. So if you're that GM of Amazon and you log in to your work computer every morning, you don't get to just start running the business. You spend 4 to 8 hours assembling the information, validating it, and then doing QA to make sure that that is ready to use. And that might be something you do on your own. It might be something that you're involving a bunch of other team members with, et cetera. And what we do when we come in and help these clients is, instead of needing to go through any of that process themselves, we've taken care of all of it automatically in the background, usually the night before. And what that means is we're extracting the data from Amazon systems programmatically. We're loading it into some kind of storage, like a SQL database or your own data warehouse. We're cleaning it up to make sure it's as accurate as possible. And that means both that we check it against Amazon systems, but also that our own software didn't make a transcription error or something like this. And then we are doing the same thing, not only for the most recent data, but we're actually looking back in time to see if Amazon changed anything from your recent history. And that amount of historical look back that we do varies by data source, but it's between 14 and 60 days because that's how often Amazon can still change your data. Then we're structuring that, getting it ready and cleaning it up for analysis. So things like percentages don't get stored as text with a percent sign in it. We actually clean up the data, store it as a fixed decimal so that it's easier to aggregate and use in your reporting tools. And so the main things that you're getting with us is all that time back, a ton of improved accuracy. And then you also get the ability to then immediately shortcut to your analyses and starting to take action on the data. And one of my favorite benefits of this that folks get is a quality of life improvement. Because if you are a GM of Amazon sales or a data analyst, and get excited about helping solve problems and understanding how to drive a business, then starting your week with 4 to 8 hours of data prep is where dreams go to die. And so a lot of times our customers are able to suddenly finally unlock enthusiasm and ROI from extremely expensive resources, whether that's their Amazon talent, their data analysts, or their engineers, by freeing them from that burden and letting us take it over. The last thing that folks get with us is support. And while we would love to say that we're perfect, nobody is perfect 100% of the time. And what I think makes us stand out is how we handle times when either something goes wrong or when folks need additional help because of something that Amazon did. And we provide what I would consider the best enterprise support in the business. We have support teams that are staffed not only by myself and my co-founders, but every single person has been trained by an ex-Amazonian on both data and Amazon specifically. And that allows us to, again, scale our own knowledge and expertise and ensure that you're back up and running as quickly as possible.
That's awesome. And something that resonates with me that you said was around, the reallocation of resources from building or managing, right, the back end to allowing them to focus on the front end. And that's where the real value is for the business, for the GM, for example, right? If they have 10 units of time, they'd rather spend it building reports and analytics than worrying about all the back end stuff. And at least from my experience, I think that's often overlooked because sometimes you'll have developers who say, oh, I can handle this, I can do this. And that may very well be true, but that's not how you want them to spend your time. And, these solutions aren't as expensive as a developer. So it's not like you have to pick and choose. So that's awesome.
That's exactly right, Josh. It's the way that I frame it to folks is that folks often think I'm going to build my own Amazon tool in-house. Amazon provides the APIs, they provide guides on how to do that. They say it's 6 weeks time to market, and I've got technical talent. But what Amazon doesn't tell you and what a lot of folks don't realize is that you don't build that once. Once you've built that data pipeline, you are now in the business of maintaining that data pipeline forever, as long as you want that data. And that maintenance takes however many units of that person's time every single week, plus escalations, plus changes from Amazon that happen every once in a while when they update reporting systems and whatnot. And if you've got that scarce resource, building a data pipeline from Amazon is not a competitive differentiator for you. How you get the data from Amazon is not your differentiator. What you do with it is.
Yeah, and a question around that, Andrew. So I've seen firsthand how difficult it is to pull data from Amazon and changing APIs and different things over time that allow you to get information or not. And I've had teams that have had to work on that and really work hard to pull information down. And that can be very time consuming. And that's just for one system, like a financial system or fulfillment system. So being able to then represent that in reporting is oftentimes not available in a financial platform versus pulling it into a reporting solution like that. And so I guess some of the clients that I've worked with in the past, they end up being pretty small and they just have part of their business selling on Amazon. Maybe they're doing hundreds of thousands or a few $1 million of sales on Amazon. And others have based their whole business around selling on the Amazon platform, doing more than 100 million in revenue. So where does Reason Automation fit into these different types of customers and how does that work for small versus large?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I think one that gets overlooked by most of the folks that I talk to in these things. So great job, Derek. So to me, while I would love to say that every single seller should sign up with us and immediately get value from the platform, et cetera, the truth is that a lot of sellers, particularly in their early to middle days and at the small to medium size of business, are operators. And I know this because I used to be one. And when I say they're operators, I mean that you're so busy, you have so many tasks that you don't have the time to look at data for the sake of looking at data. It's not an activity that you have baked into your week. What you have baked into your week instead is putting out fires, putting out the next wave of fires, and then in the very tiny little bit of time you have maybe left, like between putting the kids to bed and passing out yourself, you are then trying to figure out like how do I build myself or find a fire extinguisher for the next round of fires? And so in that space, a tool like ours, where we're about providing data, is going to be less useful because we're not, frankly, going to be putting out a business fire for you. We're going to be equipping you to find the next fires at scale. And the only way that you can do that is if you have the time and the resources to actually dedicate to analytics, looking at the data, extracting value from the data, et cetera. It's not enough to have somebody pipe the data into your system. And so for us, where we see folks getting, where we start to see folks get value from us is when they're doing 1 to 2 million a year, at least on Amazon. Regardless of how many other channels they're operating on, because once you're doing 1 to 2 million a year at Amazon, you start to have the sorts of scale problems that prevent you from being an operator forever. That operator mentality lasts right up until about that point, and then you have way more decisions than you could possibly make, and your ability to be a perpetual motion machine and do all of those things yourself has started to die. And as you need to scale out to more people in your business, et cetera, then equipping them with the same data that you have starts to become a critical input to their success.
That's amazing. And then how do those people take action on the data from there? Like, what is that? What is the normal path with that for small businesses versus large? Because obviously that's where the real ROI is gonna come in for the end user of your tool.
So for small businesses, I built for myself, and I have a little bit of technical background, but I'm not a developer. I started at Amazon without any development skills, and then I basically taught myself SQL because I needed to on the job. Amazon's mental model is we don't want you to be trapped by data, but we're not going to help you get it either. So here's a bunch of programmatic access to giant production enterprise SQL databases. Hope you know what you're doing. And so a lot of those folks end up leaving Amazon and either working at brands or for small businesses. And so my entire mental model was, how do I equip me on the other side of the table without Amazon's resources to do data and analysis the same way that I did there? And what that means is getting data into Excel. So for a lot of small business owners, you're working with your data, doing ad hoc analyses in Excel or in Google Sheets. If you're a little data savvy, maybe you've got a workbook with a bunch of formulas and pivot tables all configured so that every week you're just downloading something from Seller Central, pasting it in there and seeing all your reporting update. Those operators tend to find us and think of us as their best friend because they can remove all the manual steps from that process without breaking any of their reporting. We're not asking them to migrate to a new dashboard or a new tool or anything like this. They can literally just stop the manual download process and they get that time back while they also get an accuracy improvement in their data. For folks who are less data savvy, this year we've started to launch analytics dashboards that sit on top of our data. So we always give you direct access to that database, and we always prioritize giving you high quality data. But we're starting to make it easier for folks with different skill sets to actually get value from it. And so those dashboards start from the sort of core business management basics that you would expect. Things like an executive summary, business management, pages for sales, traffic, inventory, customer returns, ads, things like this. But then quickly getting into much more deep functional insights for things like financial operations. A big thing that we're excited about this year is launching profitability tools for both sellers and vendors. We're a little bit further on the seller side where the data is a little easier to work with, but we've now been able to help people generate things like item level P&Ls that help them monitor all of Amazon's new fees, whether that's the low inventory fee or the inbound placement fee. And then translating that into profitability trends over time, and then using that in order to do things like optimize your ad mix to only drive profitable ad sales.
Amazing. So that makes sense because I can see from an executive who is posed with taking on your tool or not, I think that other than having the great dashboards and reporting that come with it, it all comes down to what you then action off of that. If you notice profitability trends on a certain product or hidden fees or returns or these types of things that need to then be taken through, and you can make business decisions about what you do with your Amazon inventory or what products you sell on Amazon coming from there.
That's exactly right. Our mental model is that folks tend to fall into two camps of doing data and analytics. They either only want things that were built there, and then we provide them with the data so that they can keep using what they built in-house. Or they want nothing to do with the data itself, and they only want a turnkey solution. And we're trying to do better at serving those folks this year with our turnkey dashboards.
Awesome. So, Andrew, maybe to take one step back, when you talk about these turnkey dashboards, and apologies if I missed this, what tool is that? Are those some of those turnkey dashboards in?
We build our dashboards in Microsoft Power BI today. We like Power BI because Microsoft came onto the scene in enterprise analytics and very, very quickly became the market leader. Where 5 years ago, I think everybody was Tableau all the time. I think these days, Microsoft has invested so much energy and so much effort into Power BI that it very quickly outpaced Tableau from a functionality and data management perspective. In particular, the level of power that you can deploy behind Power BI compared to most other visualization tools is just astronomically different. So we built there. And then our customers interact with our Power BI dashboards through our app online.
Gotcha. So if a customer trying to go back to the product, where we're stopping largely is the SQL database, and now we're getting into Power BI or reporting layer, which sits on top of that, of course. What would you say to a customer who does or doesn't have people with BI experience? Because it sounds like they'll need that to be able to take the database and move forward. Are your customers that kind of prerequisite of your customers, or what does that landscape look like?
So in the past, it was a prerequisite, and the majority of our customers have some amount of BI talent in-house, whether that's you're a sole proprietor entrepreneur who just taught yourself Excel and SQL, or you are a larger company with access to some amount of data and analytics resources, or you've just got a bunch of ex-Amazon people on your team and they happen to know a bunch of cool stuff. And without that, it was a little difficult for clients to get value from us. If you did have that, we were the answer you'd been looking for, but you needed that help to start. These days, with those dashboards, our goal is to make that more accessible to more people. And over time, we want our dashboards, our self-help resources, knowledge base, support system, and the underlying database to create an almost educational self-service ecosystem so that you might start with the dashboards, but over time, as you become familiar with the data, you understand it better and better, you need less help to make the first round of decisions, that you become frustrated with our dashboards. We want you to find the edges and say, I want to do these other analyses. And then at that point, our direct access to data, all of our documentation that helps you understand how to take action on that data steps in.
Awesome. So that's great. And when you guys think about maybe getting into a bit of your sales cycle, when you guys think about why you might lose a customer or lose a prospect, what would be a reason somebody would walk away or whatnot?
So many reasons that I can think of. How many of them do I want to air? So in our sales cycle, when folks end up choosing another solution, it can end up being for a number of reasons. The most common one that I can think of is that they didn't have budget approval beforehand. And this is me being new to sales in general. Leading Reason Automation as its CEO is the first time I've ever had a sales job of any kind. And so little things like, asking about budget ahead of time and, building a chain of decision makers and champions internally and things are concepts that I now understand, but I'm learning them as I go. And I certainly don't have practice with the mechanisms to make that better and better. So a lot of times it's my own fault for not doing a great enough job of qualifying up front and helping folks understand the level of investment that might be required to get value from a solution like ours. The second most common reason would be because they end up choosing a mega platform. And so in the enterprise space, the primary competitors for Reason Automation are turnkey, does everything for you e-commerce platforms like Commerce IQ. And platforms like Commerce IQ are amazing because they incorporate so many different data sources, not only from Amazon, but also from other retailers, They enhance it with their own scrape data from things like market share, and help you understand your holistic business. It's really designed to be a all-in-one platform for executive teams as well as Amazon teams to do research. The trade-off being that they're very, very expensive, and they have long contract lock-in, et cetera. So you get what you pay for sort of situation. And if you were trying to compare us directly to those platforms, they're not really fungible. What those platforms do is a ton more of the analysis and upfront actionability of the data. They make it much, much easier for you to immediately get value from the data. Where they fall down is they're less flexible, because the entire point of a platform is to do everything for you. They do not prioritize helping you get data out or customizability of the platform, because they're trying to build one tool for everybody at once. And so it ultimately comes down to, for a lot of folks, a decision between, do I want everything done for me or do I want customizability?
Yeah, understood. And that's an age-old question in the software world. There's a lot of tools that try to be these giant suites that can do everything for everybody. And don't get me wrong, they can do a couple of things right at a minimum. But do you also want the best of breed? These point solutions, and then you get into the concerns about integrations and maintenance of those things. And I'm not saying there's a right answer. I'm not saying there's a wrong answer, but there's a lot to think about. I saw a recent survey where more CEOs and CFOs are now accepting and looking for the best of breed point solutions versus some of these suites, because they are less scared of integrations, et cetera, and they'd rather have the best tool possible. But it'll be interesting to see how that trend flows.
Yeah, in my experience, it's been a little of both. For a while there, the composable ecosystem had a huge boost. If you've heard of Mock, the composable alliance, they became a thing, or really grew in the pandemic. And we rode that wave for a while as folks realized, wow, I can build exactly what I want. And then frankly, the promise of composable was a little bit oversold, I think, to a lot of brands, where a lot of C-suite executives and buyers realized, oh, it's not just composable. It means that I have to do the composition and the maintenance myself. And I think a lot of vendors maybe didn't help them understand what the minimum tool set to be successful would look like. And that pushed a lot of them back towards platforms. Now, in the modern day, what I'm seeing is folks who are starting to understand that they sometimes need both. This doesn't make anybody's CFO happy, but it does make a lot of the business users happy, as they realize those platforms are the good. They're the turnkey install for 80% of your team. And in particular, your junior team members who are not going to be data experts, and they need predictability and consistency and a little bit of hand-holding as they ramp up into your business, then great. But then where do you go for the better and the best? And more folks are realizing that the better and the best for your business doesn't exist off the shelf, because it doesn't incorporate your particular business, your particular industry's insights, or your particular team's way of working or needs. And therefore, the best is always going to be something that you build and maintain in-house. It's just a question of, what is the ROI of that for your particular business?
Exactly. That's well said. Derek, I have 2 more questions. I know everyone's probably dying to see a demo, but do you have any other questions before I fire off maybe 2 more?
Yeah, I guess just from my side, what's the time from when someone buys the product to when they can see something and get some actual kind of ROI and some data out of the solution? How long does that take?
You asked one of my questions.
Time to value? What? Really good question. So the actual initial setup takes between 5 and 10 business days, depending on how much history the customer has, because we're not just connecting to Amazon systems and then just starting to pump data. If that was all we were doing, it would take less than a day. When you start with us as a customer, we grab all the available history from Amazon, and we clean it up and we store it for you so that you have access to it and you start building history over time. This is super important because Amazon provides rolling history windows. If you're a seller, it's about 2 years for sales and traffic. If you're a vendor, it's about 3 years. But if you're an advertiser, it's 60 days. And so when you sign up with us, we start freeing you from that rolling time window. And the actual backfill and setup process takes a while. In terms of actually then getting the data in front of your teams and getting some ROI, we typically find folks are doing that by the end of month one, after they've setup is completed and they've started to get their teams in front of the dashboard, and then getting into the virtuous cycle of looking at it every week, taking some action, and then reporting on how the actions did.
That's great. So not only is it very quick to get the data in, but the sooner you start, then you've started storing that data from the past, and you're not losing it day by day as that rolling time window kind of rolls off. Makes sense.
That's exactly right. And our oldest customers are really grateful that they decided to do this in the world before LLMs, because with that advertising data, for example, our oldest customers now have 4+ years of daily history of their advertising performance that they can use to power all kinds of tools, whether that's linguistic models that are going to optimize campaign titles based on the performance of the data, or they're going to use bidding models in order to predict like what they need to do from a budgeting perspective, et cetera. And they have access to data that literally nobody else has and can't get anymore.
That makes sense. And that was probably going to be my final question, which is kind of answers itself, which is Amazon going to come out with a competing product to yours for vendors? And it sounds like really there's no chance for that due to the level of complexity of the data and the fact that they're not even offering all that historical data to their vendors. You've kind of charted a unique path and very specific style reports to be able to achieve that.
Yes. So putting on my CEO hat, yeah, we're unique in the world. Amazon can't catch us, et cetera. And we're always going to be able to provide unique value. Taking off the CEO hat, realistically, Amazon is always going to try to go after whatever they can make money on. And in as much as providing better data has a very clear, large 9-figure ROI attached to it, Amazon may go for it someday. But we are very confident that day is nowhere in the near future because that ROI doesn't exist for them. Although providing brands with data helps spin the flywheel and makes them smarter, Amazon can't make a dollar from that directly. And that makes it extremely difficult for an internal person to get the resources needed to improve data systems the way that we do versus improving new ad real estate that can then be sold for $1 billion a year.
If history repeats itself, typically these systems focus on reporting last, so provides cover for a long time, if not ever. So Andrew, before we jump into a demo, it would be great for our listeners to hear how to contact you guys if they're interested to learn more, and if you guys offer any type of trials or demos, or really just talk to them about next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything that we've talked about here is interesting to you and you want to see a demo or even just ask questions, you can email me directly. My name is Andrew, again, Andrew@reasonautomation.com. You can also sign up for a demo on our website, reasonautomation.com/demo, and you'll meet probably with me anyway. And you can also find a whole bunch of information about what we do on our website. And regardless of whether you use us or not, I'd encourage you to check out our help center, help.reasonautomation.com. It's a free public resource of Amazon data information. And we try to make it as useful as possible for folks who are working with super, super granular Amazon data.
Awesome. All right, Andrew, the moment everyone's been waiting for. Are you ready to show us a little demo? We'll give you 5 minutes. Show us what you got.
All right. So to show you how Reason Automation works, I actually really like the demo in Excel because even though there's tons of cool reporting software and analytics tools out there, I still do all my ad hoc analysis in Excel, and I imagine that you do too. So from within the tool, I'm just going to connect to our demo database in the cloud without ever leaving the tool. And in that database is anonymized versions of all of the data sources that we're able to grab. And so it's everything from ad console, regardless of which PPC type you're using, DSP, brand store, seller data, vendor data, et cetera. But let's say you're a vendor and you're starting with point of sale information because you need to report on how your business is doing. I'm going to go ahead and select that table, hit load, and Excel is going to connect to our system and create a permanent, persistent connection while loading in all available data here directly into the sheet. And because that connection is permanent, if I were to save this workbook and close it and open it again tomorrow, I don't need to recreate that connection. I can just hit refresh, and Excel is going to remember. And if there's any new data or updated data, it's going to automatically make those updates for me in this sheet. And so you can imagine if you are somebody who has an entire workbook full of formulas, VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, etc., things that you have already built to do all the analysis that you need, and you just want to not be in the business of downloading data from Amazon anymore, that this is all you need. Getting the data into Excel or whatever tool that it is at a super high level of accuracy and granularity, and never needing to do that work again. We're also getting this data at the lowest possible granularity. So by day, by ASIN, with every program that Amazon sells in. And although this might be a little esoteric for Amazon folks, we're getting every distributor view so that you can very quickly switch between different business perspectives. And so for, I'd say, 2/3 of our customers, this is the product. The core of what we do is provide this data automatically for over 100 different data sources for Amazon and basically allow people to never worry about this again. If we're doing our job right, folks use us like a utility. And they just expect the data to appear at a high level of accuracy whenever they open up their database. And if we're doing our job correctly, then they don't need to talk to us even. However, as I mentioned earlier, this year we started to get into providing analytics as well. And so I'd also love to show you some of our dashboards. This first one is we call our vendor core dashboard. It's intended to be your business review command center every week or month, and give you a high-level overview of how your business is doing across KPIs in a funnel view. So choosing a reporting period and then seeing from the top of the funnel with your traffic, how much traffic are you getting? How is that changing from month to month versus year over year? What are people ordering and what is your conversion rate? Then quickly drilling down into the next step of the funnel. What did Amazon actually order from you, from your source? And then what did Amazon order from everyone who manufactures or who sells your products, including any distributors that they source from that aren't you? And then allowing folks to drill down from here into various elements of their business. So, for example, looking at sales, aggregated performance with trend lines, allowing folks to then quickly categorize or jump to the business performance by a category of products or a subcategory of products, which we allow you to tag in our own systems. We also know that most brands don't speak ASIN. ASIN stands for Amazon Standard Identification Number, and this is the way that Amazon reports on everything. A major pain point for brands is my stakeholders don't know what an ASIN is, and I have to explain it every week. And so we've made it that you can switch between ASIN and SKU and actually see all of your product reporting by SKU and product title instead of by ASIN, just making your life a little easier that way. You also have the ability to drill from any item into a detail page of that item's performance across KPIs. So here we're seeing essentially the full funnel view with time series information for one product. And our other dashboards go deeper into more specific focal areas like profitability. And so switching gears here to talk about the seller side. What we've done for sellers here is actually help them calculate what is your item level profitability per item in a time frame so that you can use that information to do things like optimize your ads. Where most ad tools optimize or show you your performance as a revenue return on ad spend, we now show profit return on ad spend as well, so that you can see both of those metrics side by side. And just to give you an idea of why this matters, let's select this item here and see all of the information for just this one product. If you look at the ROAS for this product, the ROAS over time has been increasing. It started a little low, but you can see that bright orange line going up and to the right until it lands at about $4. Which is not amazing, but it's not terrible. And if you were looking at this information in isolation, you might say, okay, this company sold this product for 6 months without any advertising, started advertising, and slowly made that advertising more efficient. Sounds like a win. But if you look at this from a profitability perspective, this second graph here, what you can see is that from a return on or a profit return on ad spend, they sold this product for 6 months, started advertising it, and then literally never made money per unit ever again. It was profit negative on every single unit that they sold for over a year. And after this company joined us and got these insights, they were able to see that this was occurring. It was really difficult to notice beforehand because this product was in 50 plus different ad campaigns and different portfolios, and aggregating the performance of that is really, really difficult in Amazon's tools. And they didn't understand the relationship between their ad spend and the overall profitability of the product, which tools like this help unearth.
That's awesome. Always good to look at it fully baked. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. This has been great for anyone interested. Andrew's given some good information on how to reach out to them or see a demo or get some support. So if you're an Amazon brand, there's no reason you don't check out Reason Automation's website. So thank you, Andrew, very much.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh and Derek. I hope folks found it useful. Again, email me if you have any questions or if we can help out with anything Amazon related. Andrew at reasonautomation.com.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. Take care. Well, Derek, there we had it. We had Reason Automation. What'd you think? You go first.
In terms of the tool, I've seen so many Amazon businesses in the last number of years has seen this skyrocketing of new companies growing so fast on Amazon that they're reporting and understanding their own growth and what to predict for. And in working with some people in my business, we've seen them just really struggle because a lot of businesses that sell on Amazon are inventory related businesses. And so they have to track this combination of growth with lead time. And a lot of older ERP products like NetSuite or other similar tools, all their demand planning is based off of historical data. And with product companies in Amazon, and you combine that with super fast growth, your historical data is really not a great metric of your future performance when you're growing so quickly. And so leveraging really real-time data in a real-time data warehouse where you can pull that data in and understand exactly what's happening day to day in real time, and then be able to place your inventory orders, track your lead time, and work that through based on that information, seems like it could have huge benefits for a business.
I agree. I think from like a reporting app and analytics perspective, some of the use cases you mentioned is, it's a no-brainer. Even going back a couple steps, I've seen so many companies say, we extract Amazon data. But the reality is they'll also then tell you they extract 500 other data sources. And they do, don't get me wrong, but here's a bunch of ex-Amazon engineers who know how to do it right, know how to get it accurate. And I just worry about those catch-all tools because I've used them and I've had mixed results. So when I see a tool where it's like, okay, these guys lived it on the Amazon side, now they live it on the other side, and this is why they built the solution, gives me a lot of confidence in their ability to execute. Some of the other things I like is, depending on the stage of your business, and you asked this question, like, what stage of business needs this? You might have a BI team and you want that SQL database and you're going to take it from there. Or you may not quite yet have the BI team and you're going to leverage some of the pre-built stuff that Reason Automation offers. And then certainly that'll jumpstart a BI program for you or help you invest in getting someone trained to do more reports. So I like that they hit that from both angles. I think that's really important. And I think the other thing is that I think people in this space often overlook, we talked about Andrew, is a lot of developers, I know I said this once, but a lot of developers will say, hey, I can build an API. I can pull the data. But even if they can, and even if they can build it themselves and get it, right, how much time and effort did that take? Right? He stands up in let's call it a month, you have ROI, versus that could take 6 months to a year just to get right. And then they're managing it ongoing, worrying about changes, et cetera. And all the while, the business is saying, I just need to know how to forecast demand better, or I just need to know my ROAS better, like Andrew was just showing. So that time savings is monumental. And for me as a business owner, the question I ask is like, okay, is the person adding value to the business or building infrastructure? And if I can build it, or buy it, what makes more sense? And I think in this case, I'm familiar with their pricing. I think buy it is going to be a good option for a lot of companies.
It seems like it, right? And I think that those default dashboards are the ones that come with the tool that's available now is going to be a key point, because as you get into that data, obviously the whole purpose of the tool is to take that complex data and make it available in the really detailed data. And in order to get the most out of it, inevitably, you're probably going to need a business intelligence team, or at least one person who really can dig in and draft your own reports and your own data based off of that. And so for any business taking a look at that, that would be an important factor to consider, is your own technical team's expertise in being able to actually use the data once it becomes available, and to be able to take those dashboards that maybe do come standard with the tool and enhance them to see exactly what you need, or tweak them to add a little bit more to it. So I would say that'd be an important factor in making a decision on the ROI for the data itself.
Absolutely. That's certainly the biggest risk, right? Making sure you have those people in place or plan for it on the BI side. Awesome. Well, any final thoughts, or is that it for today's episode?
Looks like a great tool to me. I definitely have a few businesses I know that I could recommend it to. So it's very interesting to hear it straight from the founder.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Talk SaaSy to Me. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you like it or subscribe, and we'll see you next time.